Hi, I'm Rod Britton from Seasmoke FM. An ex colleague of mine that I used to work with from the digital marketing team suggested I come up with a video to showcase how easy it really is to use my financial model, Seasmoke FM, and use some fictional data to bring it all to life. He and I talk about AI a lot, and now he's an AI trainer helping businesses understand the practical applications of it. That helped me come up with the fictional company and therefore the data I'm about to use in this video. Hanker Inc., a company that owns the IP to a home help robot service. It designs, makes, and provides support of this robot service. I came up with the idea of RAS, Robot as a Service, while I was thinking about the revenue model. Anyway, the first part is a number of slides to lay the groundwork. And then the rest of it is I work through the model to insert the financial projection inputs and then end with a review of the outputs. How much does the business need? When is the peak cash point? And what does the business look like over the 3-year period? It's a 28-minute video, and while I don't cover every single aspect of the model, it's designed to show you that it's not as complex as you think to create financial projections when you have a tool like Seasmoke FM. The last slide of this video has contact details if you want to get in touch. I'll leave it with you. Hi, let's start with the structural setup for this fictional company. You'll see here that this is actually a blank model. You'll see a whole load of zeros in the summary income statement and balance sheet. But let's move on quickly. So the first thing we do is we just flip over to this cell over here. The first thing we do is we put in the date. Here we go, December 24 is the last year end. And then what we'll do is we'll put in an inflation. December's our year end, so we'll start at each start of each year. So we just flick over here, and then that's about it. And then the next thing we do is we go over to structure over here, and we put in a balance sheet. So let's just make one up. Then the next thing we come down, so currency conversion, we're going to use US dollars. You could choose whatever currency, but we're going to use US dollars. Let's just flick over here. One-offs in the model. We're going to pay 75% of salaries in the month. The rest is all taxes. Let's say the corporate rate of tax is 25. Interest rate on any positive cash, 2%. And there's no depreciation run rate to bring forward. Down here, our product is a robot. So there you go, product hardware is a robot. And we've got two choices. We can do 3PL or stock held. Stock held means what it says. You go and buy in stock and then it sits in a warehouse. But let's do a 3PL where it's you make an order and then they deliver it to your customer. Much easier, a bit more expensive. Let's keep it simple. There's no existing SaaS income down here. Down here, let's see that we've got some cost centers that have been set up already. And what we'll do is we'll just make them the same, make the departments the same. So we'll stick that there. Cost type it's a choice between overheads and direct costs. So let's just stick that there. Let's say the pension contribution is 3, government levies, let's say 15, because it's all US, it's about right. And then we flick over here, no bonuses. This down here is all your costs and your overhead template. Let's keep it as I've got. These are already sort of preset. This will pretty much cover you. If we go down, fixed life of assets, let's just put in something that I did earlier. This is to work out your depreciation. Up to you, can be anything you like. It's in months. And then down here, we've got SaaS. So we've got SaaS product pricing. We've got the Hanker basic fee, and we've got the Hanker support fee. And you'll know more about this from the previous slide deck that I showed you before you've come on this. So we're going to be charging $2,000 a month and $250 a month for that. And that's pretty much it. That is the setup. So away we go. Okay, we just finished the SaaS pricing up here in the structural part. Now we're going to move over and do the hardware product itself. So as you know, hardware, we've got a robot. We're going to price it at $25,000 retail. We're going to give our distribution channel 50% discount of the retail price because they're not getting any commissions or any money attributed to SaaS. So it's got to be worth their while. In terms of gross additions, the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to lay them out like our plan is. So we're starting with California. We're going to do it all indirect. And then afterwards, we're going to have a mixture of direct and indirect. And then what I've got over here some volumes that I just did a bit earlier, just to make this a bit easier. They're the volumes. All the calculations are automated. And then if you just go flick down here quite quickly, hardware revenue. So on the freight side, what I'm doing is I'm assuming that we're going to charge 5%. We're going to charge 5% of revenue to a retail customer. There'll be some cost attached to that, and we'll deal with that later. So let's just stick that in there, and you can see there that there's some revenue. So that sorts that out. Let's move on to the next one. So we've just done the robot pricing for the hardware itself. Let's move on to the SaaS. Bear in mind, in this example, every robot has a SaaS subscription. So therefore, when we look at the gross additions, we may as well link them, in this example, to the number of additions we've made. So if we just go up here, I may as well just use this, what we've done here already, and we can also do rest of US. So California is just this number here. These were the numbers we put in before. And then for rest of, we're not interested in whether it's direct or indirect because we're getting our SaaS revenue come what may. So if we just go here, sum these, do this. Right, and there are our ads, and that all links to the actual hardware itself. So if we come down here, SaaS monthly bills, California. So there you go. It's the California one that we're doing. We're going to say it's 5% churn per year. Oops. There's no opening balance. The number of customers is basically whatever we've got here because it's not really classic SaaS with users and customers in the same number. Down here, we're using the book price, so therefore there's your 2,000 and 250. And then in terms of feature take up, so we know that everybody has to have it, so that's 100% of the users. And then the other thing we said was it's 50% of the customers will take the support fee. So let's do that. Just copy it across like that. Come down here. There's no users at all from last year, and that's it. So, and then the next thing is we've got the rest of the US. So it's breaking down each of the cohorts that you've split. So this is rest. Let's just use the same assumption, shall we? We've got nothing here. Number of customers. The number of customers doesn't drive anything. All it's there. It's just for some metrics. Yep. And then we come down here. We're not using customer price, although I've put in customer price. The selection's here. If we wanted a customer price, it would choose this. But we're just going to do book price. We'll get rid of that. It doesn't really make any difference. Again, we're going to do 100% and 50%. Let's do that. And then that's units at month end. And there you go. And so we didn't use anything else. You can see it's got a 0 because we didn't use that cell. So we've got rest of US and we've got California, and that ties in with that. Okay, so that's your SaaS sorted. Let's move on to implementation and training. Okay, we've just done the SaaS. Now let's do implementation and training. Real easy, this one. So what we said was that every implementation we're going to charge $250. So you'll see in this tab here, it says Rev Imp Training. You can see here are the numbers of additions that we added. So for each one, what we're saying is that it's a 1, so it's 1 day for each person, and they're going to be charged $250 each. And that's it. There's nothing more complicated than that. Let's move on to the last revenue item. Okay, we've finished the underlying product revenue for the business. Last thing is just some grant income. Over here, there's a sheet called Rev GT, which is to take grants. Let's assume that we record the grant income as revenue. If you wanted to record it as a negative cost, there is an option to do that within the overhead section. So let's say over here, it's a US government grant. Over here, let's assume each May we get $1 million. So let's just flick it here. Okay. And that's it. That's all you need to know. Let's step over to the headcount section of Seasmoke. So here in this section here, we've got the cost center, CEO. So this first role paid monthly, location, USA, California. It's the CEO role, currency USD. We're going to pay them $250,000. Medical cost $500 a month. Is this a new or existing role? It's existing. And then we just put in 1 all the way to the end, including the end of the previous fiscal year. And then let's just copy this down. So the CEO has an EA, so let's just put that one in. USD as well, 100 grand. And everything is the same here, so let's just copy this down. So that's that in. Now, what we're doing with these 2 people is the CEO, he's getting a 25% pay rise, but it's going to be linked to success. So hopefully the rest of the US rollout will happen by January 26th. So that's what we're going to factor in. And we're going to do the same for the other person, the EA, 15% pay rise. And you'll see here along here, which is the basic salary here, you'll see if you go along there, December, then January, and then it pops up quite a bit, and that's linked to all of this. So I'm going to populate the rest. You can just watch it if you like, or fast forward it. But here goes. And all the headcount is now input. Let's move on to costs. Okay, we've just done the headcount. Let's step into the costs. So up here, we've got direct costs, and what we're looking for is inputs into cells that are grayed out with a little dotted box line around them. First thing is how cloud hosting. Okay, $10,000 a month. That's US. We're going to have it increase by 1% a month, and that's just as more development environments are set up, more test environments, that kind of thing. It's not driven by revenue. If we go down here, there's no previous run revenue from last year, but what we're going to say here is that 20% of SaaS revenues is going to be taken up in costs that we pay to whoever you might use, AWS or someone like that. And then as we go down, we're not using any of this other stuff here, subscriptions or any of that. Freight, remember what I said before, we're charging 5% on average to customers. Let's say it costs us 75% of that. We'll deal with the hardware cogs a little bit later. If we move down here, commissions, there's no commissions because it's mainly indirect, and any direct is going through marketing. Staff turnover, well, let's say the staff turnover is 10%. Let's say that on average the recruitment fee to replace those people is 10% of basic salaries, and let's say that it's 15%. It's 15% of basic salaries for new staff on a cost center basis. So you'll see here that starts to populate over there. Training, let's say that we spend 5% of basic salaries on training. Travel and accommodation, let's say the CEO spends $5,000 a month, 5,000, but everyone else it's 500 per head per month. And then on professional fees, we're going to do accounting and tax, and then we're going to do legal, and then we're going to do, so we're using US dollars, so let's put in US dollars, and we're going to do 50 grand a year, and same again, US dollars, and it's 50 grand a year. Okay, that just goes up by inflation. Occupancy, let's say we're going to, it's going to cost $15,000 a month. But while we're here, because the headcount's going to go up, let's just step over to this one, GB, and have a look at rent increases. So you'll see here occupancy, rent, California. So just to make things simple, why don't we say that it's going up by 20% January 26 and 25% January 27, just with headcount and other things. So let's go back to costs. So you'll see here that starts going up, driven by that. Marketing. Let's simplify marketing a little bit. Let's say that we're going to spend $100,000 a month in the first year, just on to get the thing going, to get awareness going, and then what we'll do is we'll further down. That's sort of hard coded, cost by product, hardware. Down here, we've got a little section on marketing cost that's driven by revenue. So because we've got hardware revenue, let's make it 10%, 10% and 10%. Those are the three revenue streams that we've got. And you'll see over here what it means is, when it all said and done, this is our marketing cost. So in the early years, in the first year, it's mainly driven by this hard-coded $1 million we're going to spend here, 1.2 million. Anyway, let's move on. Go down to marketing, general and admin. There's lots here. Let me just put in something I did earlier. Let's stick this in. Bank fees. But then what we're going to do is we're going to look at these. So bank fees is going to increase by inflation. But I think cleaning is probably people related, so we're going to increase it by that. Insurance, let's have that increasing by headcount. Internet, let's have that. Inflation's good. Printing and stationery, let's have that on headcount as well. And research and development, we'll just leave that at inflation. And then we've got we'll have a general pool of subscriptions. Let's just make 15,000 a month, because we need the best tools, and let's do it on a headcount basis, because generally software costs are linked to the number of seats. And so that's it. So when you go to the top, you can see here all the costs. Still got model and balance, still our base case. So that's it. But while we're here, we might step over to working capital, because this is where I do the stock. So stock, we won't put in a closing balance of stock, although we will. How much did we say it was? We said, here we go, 500,000. So just for completeness, we know there's 500,000, and we know they cost us, well, they actually cost us 10,000 each. Here we go, we've got 50. So cost per robot, 10,000. Oops. 10,000. And it's US dollars. Now, because we're doing 3PL, we don't need to use minimum stock, and you can see here that then all the calculations are worked out. So that's pretty much it for the costs. Let's move on to CapEx. Okay, we've just done costs and we finished off the product costing for the robot. Let's step into CapEx, quite a simple area. Up top, you've got all of just some categories. But for our purposes, we're just going to put in staff computers. And so this is driven by headcount. So we're just going to put in 5,000. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in a replacement rate of 25%. so that 25% of the computers are always replenished. And that's it for CapEx in this example. Okay, we're in the working capital section, and this is only really about timing of when you get your money. So, for example, trade debtors, new debtors, hardware. So, all of those robots that you sold, when are you going to get your money? So, I've assumed here in month 2, you get 100%. But do you know what? You could make that 50% and 50%. Implementation and training. Okay, I've assumed it's all going to come into month 2, and ongoing. We didn't use that one. And on the SaaS, we get it the month after we've actually invoiced it. So you can see you can play with that a little bit. And then if you go further down here on stock, we've just been there. Let's go down to trade creditors. So what I'm saying here is the hardware, I think we should probably assume that we have to pay it straight away because it's a 3PL deal. Let's assume that all CapEx we have to pay, actually usually we pay it straight away. Travel accommodation is usually paid straight away because it's on credit cards. Occupancy, well, landlord always wants paying. And the remainder of the costs, let's stick it all like that. And then just ignore the rest for now because a lot of it is automated. So that's pretty much it. Okay, we've done all the inputs. It's been pretty quick. Now to have a review of the outputs. So you'll see what's in front of you is the executive summary. So this is the 8 key numbers. You can see here, based on what we've put in, 5.7 million US dollars is needed. Peak period is July 26. We break even in May 26, and that's the revenue, 2.1 million. And here are some other sort of metrics, but it's up to you. You can choose any of these, and let's just change the last one, just something else. It doesn't really matter what it is. EBITDA margin over here. There you go. It's 36.4% in fiscal 27. When we go down here, we can just visualize the projections, P&L performance here. You can see loss making here and then start to make a profit. Revenue by product, you can see SaaS is really starting to take off, and there's the hardware. Overhead composition starts off very salary related heavy, and then marketing really starts to get there. And you can imagine if it was a longer range plan, you'd spend more money in marketing. Capital expenditures, neither here nor there. Here's a bit of a cash bridge. Cash at the start over here, cash at the end over here, and in the intervening fiscal periods, and then sort of broadly what's driving that, and you'll see revenue and costs. I've got an EBITDA bridge, so you can see, for example, last year's EBITDA was this 1,285 loss. It was 3,853 for fiscal 25. So how do we do that? Well, there was a bit of revenue, which is mainly grants, but then there was an increase in these costs here. These types of costs, staff-related, COGS, marketing, etc., to bring the EBITDA down. So this is quite a good sort of story to tell. Why did it move from this to that? And then further down, I won't go through them all. Then we've got financial performance summaries. We've got the income statement, balance sheet, etc. And then over here, you've got sort of what are the quarterly trends that's happening. And then you've got your cash flow, where's it coming in from, etc. Down here on the revenue volumes, you can see, there you go, there's the robot. This is the revenue. This is the units sold. And you can see overall the gross margin. And if you remember, the gross margin is quite low in the first year because it was all indirect. And in the following year, we did a mix of direct and indirect as we rolled out to the rest of the US. And that's why the gross margin goes up. Implementation of training, etc. So that's pretty much it. Hope you really enjoyed this. Please get in touch if you want to find out more. Really enjoyed doing this actually and coming up with this idea of Hanker, a robot system. Stay in touch. Bye. It's real easy, fast to do, well put together, and build reputation.